All right, let's get right into it. If you're running ads on your website, listen up, because there's a really good chance a tiny little timing issue is quietly costing you money on every single visitor from Europe. And today, we're going to fix that by getting a handle on Google's Consent Mode v2. So, I gotta ask you, is this happening to you right now? It's what I call a silent leak. You know, it's hidden in those first few hundred milliseconds of a page load, so you'd never notice it. But trust me, the financial impact adds up, and it adds up fast. And here's why you should care. Look at the numbers. The gap here is huge. Just by serving a non-personalized ad because you missed that tiny consent window, you could be cutting your revenue in half for that very first ad impression. It might not sound like much, but multiply that by thousands and thousands of page views. Yeah, it's a big deal.
I just love this analogy because it's perfect. It's exactly what's happening. Your website is basically calling for an ad before it even has permission from the user. And you know, just like calling a taxi too early, things get messy, inefficient, and, well, expensive.
So what's the culprit behind all this? You might think it's some super complex bug, right? Nope. It's actually just a simple race condition. It's all about timing.
So here's what's new and what you need to know. Consent Mode v2 brought in two new signals, or toggles if you will. Ad user data, which is about using personal data, and ad personalization, which is about tailoring the ad itself. If either one of these is set to denied when that first ad gets requested, well, that's when your revenue takes a hit. This really paints the picture, doesn't it? Okay, so the page starts loading and boom, almost instantly, that first ad request is fired off. But look, your consent management platform, the CMP, it doesn't actually get the user's okay until after that ad call has already gone out the door. The consent signal, well, it arrives too late to the party. And that's the bottom line right there. When the ad request wins this little millisecond race, you automatically get paid the lower, non-personalized rate for that super valuable first impression. You are literally leaving money on the table, and you probably don't even know it's happening.
But hey, here's the good news. The fix is actually surprisingly straightforward. It really just comes down to pulling two simple levers.
So you can relax. You don't need to go out and buy some fancy new software or hire a developer to rewrite a bunch of code. All we have to do is get the timing right and correctly map those consent signals. That's it. Simple as that. Think about it like this. We're just making a polite change to your website's load order. First things first, you make consent the absolute top priority, loading that CMP script before anything else. Second, you tell the site to just assume the answer is no until it hears otherwise. And finally, you just make that first ad wait its turn. It has to wait for the green light from the consent signal. And this really is the key takeaway from all of this. Trying to be clever with a really complex setup, that's where you introduce these unexpected race conditions. A simple, predictable, and yeah, frankly, boring setup where things happen in the correct order every single time, that's what keeps your revenue safe.
Okay, so you've made the changes. How do you actually know if you fixed it? Well, I'm going to show you a super quick pre-flight check you can run yourself in about 60 seconds right from your own browser. So just pop open your browser's developer tools and click on the Network tab. Then filter for the ad requests. Now, before you click anything on the consent banner, you should see all the consent values are set to denied, okay? Then click Accept and watch closely. You need to see Ad User Data and Ad Personalization flip to Granted before that first ad request fires. That last part, that is the most important check of all.
And here's your target. Your goal is to keep the percentage of signals that are undefined below 1%. Think of that as your safety guardrail. If you see that number start to creep up, you know something's off with your timing or your mapping.
Now, to really prove to yourself that this worked, you got to measure the revenue lift. Do a simple 7-day before and after comparison. That window is just long enough to smooth out any weird daily traffic spikes and give you a really true picture of the financial impact.
Now, every once in a while, you're going to run into some weird issues on specific browsers. It happens. Like on iOS Safari, a slow-loading font can actually block your consent banner from showing up, which causes the whole problem. This little chart here is like a quick cheat sheet to help you diagnose some of those common and honestly super frustrating little edge cases.
Okay, let's wrap this up and bring it all home. Here is your clear, immediate action plan. Seriously, you can probably get this done in the next 15 minutes.
Here's your checklist. Number 1, move that CMP script to the very top of your site's head tag. 2, set your default consent state to denied. 3, make absolutely sure you are properly mapping those two new signals. And finally, number 4, run that 60-second check we just talked about to prove to yourself that it actually works. So look, by fixing this one leak, you've learned a really powerful lesson about just how critical timing is. Which leaves me with one final question for you. Now that you know what to look for, what other silent, revenue-draining leaks are hiding in your website's code right now, all because of another simple race condition?